Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another Samee Whiz session. These seem to be getting more and more popular, and we're getting more and more requests for them. So we've kept them going, and people are getting lots of value week on week. So do let us know anything particular that you're looking to get support with, that we can tailor them around and theme them around. But we certainly know that we're making some great progress with these, and people are really, really enjoying these. And we've had great lineup of guests. We've got some brilliant people that have come on board, and this week is no different. We've already got Sam is definitely on board with us and watching, and Derek is still on the sofa, she's saying. Bless her. So the question is, has he changed his shirt? I'm sure you have, Derek.
I'm just ignoring Sam. I will ignore Sam or whatever.
Okay, brilliant. I will. I'm sure she'll comment on that shortly. And we've got some more people coming in. Good morning, Lorraine. It's good to see you here. Lorraine is an avid watcher of us and joins in every week. So, and Simon will tell you that we've had great fun working with Lorraine. So Derek's here with us this week. So thank you for joining us, Derek. It's great to have you on. And we're going to talk this week a little bit more about mentoring and hear some of your experiences in life, building business yourself, and those kind of things. So I think we're going to get some great value from today for our watchers. So I'm going to hand over to you at this point and say, would you like to introduce yourself to the group?
I will, yes. Hello, everybody. Sam assures me there is more than two listening and watching.
Yeah, we've got Michael's on as well, so we've definitely got more than two.
That's good news. So I think you can sum my career up in one word, really, which is sales. I'm very passionate about sales. I think I've probably had every single business title you can have with sales in it. My experience spans working for small to medium-sized enterprises through to global brands, and somewhere in the middle there, I ran my own business. I retired from corporate world just over 2 years ago, and now travel, unfortunately, clearly affected by the virus.
Yeah.
Play golf badly. And mentor, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, and we'll come into that. And we've had Liz has also said she can't stop long as she's going out with the family. Well, enjoy your trip out with the family, Liz, but I'm sure you'll be watching later, and you're usually on, so it's good to see you popping on and saying hello. So that's brilliant, and I think let's kind of go straight into things. Just to let everyone know, obviously, if you're not able to comment on the posts, you've got my email address there that you can send a question through to. You can also send them through to Sam at Samee as well, where the team will pick those up and post them for us. And Derek has kindly said, if you've got any questions, if you're watching this on replay as well, you can also drop him through a quick email and ask him any questions you've got. So I think with that in mind, let's go straight into it. And if anyone's got any questions, do comment or email us, like we've said. But I think let's go straight into the questions. And I think the first thing that I'd like to ask yourself, Derek, is around the mentoring. And what made you decide to become a mentor?
Yeah, that's a good question, Rick. So if I can just take back. So when I decided to retire, and I guess this would resonate with a lot of people coming up to that point, there is a level of almost fear of what am I actually going to do with my time. I clearly had some plans, but I was quite concerned about probably mental stimulation. And so I decided, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a small business, a sales consultancy business, because that comes back to my passion. So I had that all lined up. I had all the PR ready to go. And I went down to the beach one day, and I'm sitting on the beach, and I asked myself a question, which was, why? Why are you putting me through this? Why are you doing this? And I actually couldn't give myself a real honest answer. And so that was it. I stopped. Back in my days with Canon UK, I've been instrumental in the mentoring scheme there. And I'd seen the results myself, and I'd really enjoyed it because I was actively involved in the programme. And so that was it. So the first thing I did was did some research, as one does, and I found an organisation called Dorset Business Mentors. For those who don't know, they are predominantly funded by Dorset Council. And if you are a small to medium-sized enterprise based in Dorset, for the princely sum of £200 a year, you get a mentor. So I've been mentoring with them for about 2.5 years.
Brilliant.
And then one particular day, I was walking down Boscombe High Street, and this arm came out of the shop. A woman dragged me in and said, "You'll do," and I'm now a Samee mentor as well.
Yeah, and I can just imagine Sam doing that. Sam's monitoring the team emails today, so yeah, she's saying cheeky. But yeah, we've also put up the link about Dorset Business Mentors as well, and I think really good there about the why, because that's something we always talk to people when you're first looking at business. The question is asking why. You know, why are you doing it, but why are you providing that? What's your customers' why? And yeah, sitting on the beach, I think we've all had those moments where we've gone, why am I doing this?
Yeah,
But yeah, no, that's brilliant. And I think moving on to the next question, being a mentor, and it might be different things for Dorset Business Mentors and different things for Samee, but what do you enjoy about mentoring?
I think the first thing is that it's the challenge that each mentee provides you. Bearing in mind, looking at it slightly selfishly, why I do it, it is for that challenge. And every mentee that I've had, they've given me different challenges. So that absolutely is key to me. Also, seeing them grow and develop. And I think one of the real keys is seeing them overcome their fear. You know, very often we'll say to a mentee, "Why don't we do this?" And you can actually see through their body language a level of fear, and then you work through with them. And then when you then see them do whatever that was, it's terrific. It really is. You can't put into words that feeling. And then clearly, one would hope that you've added some value to their business and you see that business actually growing. So for me, that answers your question.
Yeah, brilliant. And we're climbing, the live viewers are getting more and more each week. So I think, Derek, so far you're heading towards being the one with the most live viewers at the moment. So we're doing well on this one. So what barriers have you faced when first meeting mentees and people you're mentoring?
I wouldn't use the word barriers. What I would say is I was very conscious that it is very much a two-way relationship, and I think that's really, really important. The second part of my answer to you is more difficult because I can't articulate it. But when you meet somebody, there is a chemistry. You feel as though, yes, I could work with that person. But I think equally, one of the things I'm very keen to understand are what are the key objectives that the mentee wants to get from the relationship. That allows me then to make a judgment. Am I the right individual to help that person? Because they actually might need skills that I don't possess. So for me, that's really important. I think for me, what I do very early on is lay some ground rules back down to the relationship. So one of those is what are you trying to achieve? So we know where we're going. Very basic. When are we going to meet? How long are we going to meet? And for me, it's about also at the end of each meeting that there are some outputs and some objectives. And for me, it's really important that the individual realises that I have an expectation that those will be delivered when we next meet. I think that's really, really important, really important.
Brilliant. And I know one of the just popped up, one of the companies that you worked with was the Wisdom Sticks. And how did you find first working with those?
That was a tremendous experience for me. I mean, it really was. Firstly, it was the first time I've worked with anybody from the Samee charity, so that was the first point. Two ladies. I won't go into the sort of detail, but there was a reason why they launched the business, which was meditation fundamentally, but a lot deeper than that. Neither had any involvement in business at all. And there was a classic example of I remember sitting down with them. I used to meet them in the early days every Friday as we were planning the launch of the business. And I said, okay, so what we've got to do is you start really looking at presentation skills. And they both froze, absolutely froze. And yet, I think probably 6 weeks later, they ran a workshop where they were on their feet for probably 45 minutes or more of that. It was just fantastic to see. And then to see them go on and launch that business, which is going from strength to strength. So, yeah, terrific. Really great experience for me.
Excellent. And I think we've just had a question in that someone's emailed actually along the lines of mentoring, and they've just said, what should I look for in a good mentor?
Well, certainly not me, but I actually wrote down, so just bear with me. What I and clearly this is from my perspective, and what I think is important. So the first thing is you need to be a good, active listener. I'm not going to explain that anymore because at the end of our chat, I'm going to show you something that will resonate with that. You need to have, and I'm going to use the word ability, to create and develop a trusting relationship. One of the things about mentoring is that it doesn't happen overnight. Clearly, it's like any other relationship. It needs time to flourish, and that building of that trust. And what I've found, I've been mentoring certainly on the Dorset mentoring group side for in one instance is 2.5 years, and that relationship really has developed and grown to the point where I think he sees me as a very, very trusted ally to his business. But that didn't come overnight. That had to be built. So that's really, really important. Non-judgmental, really very, very important. And also you need to have life experiences. That life experiences is not just about business, but I think in general. So you're kind of rounded to be able to help people. So that was the question.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Oh, Liz is saying, I disagree. Derek is a good mentor.
Yeah, but what you don't know is money past hands, Rick. So
yeah. And the team are just commenting to say you need trust and commitment on both sides, and I think that's definitely one of the qualities that we look at with mentors in here.
Yeah.
So I think we have touched on this a little bit, but just how do you feel when you see people you're mentoring overcome the challenges or barriers they're facing and how they succeed? How do you find that feels to you?
Yeah. Pride. I think there's a real level of pride in seeing that. Emotional. If my wife was here, she'd be looking at me going, but you don't show emotion. But genuinely, in going back to the two ladies that I began my experiences with Samee with, one of them in particular has gone on to take formal courses, and she sent an email out, which was a cut and paste of the response that she got from her exam, which was exemplary, absolutely exemplary. And I genuinely welled up, and that really isn't Derek. So yeah, and I think the other point, it continually reminds me that you can achieve anything. Even I need to be. I'm a relatively, no, I'm not relatively. I'm a very positive individual. But sometimes, like everybody else, you just need a reminder. And when you see things like that, it really reminds you that if you've got the drive and the focus, you can achieve what you want to achieve.
Yeah, definitely.
If my daughter was here now, Rick, she'd tell the story about. She says I wear it as a badge of honour, and that is that I left school with nothing. I had no education whatsoever because I was going to play for West Ham United. I don't know where that dream came from because I wasn't a particularly good footballer, but there we are. And in fact, and this clearly was, as you'll see from the lack of hair and the wrinkles, this was some years ago, so it wouldn't get away with it now. But the headmaster on his final talk to me said, Hawley, you will make nothing of yourself.
Yeah.
And I've done okay. And I wear it as a badge of honour. And it's one of the things, I'm going a little bit off piece here, but I think it's really important. It's one of the reasons why I love the Samee charity, because I think what the Samee charity does in its schoolwork is really try to inspire youngsters who potentially will leave school. As we all know, school is now driven by education, further education, get them into university, ticking the box, hopefully get them into an apprenticeship. In my view, if they don't fall into those two boxes, it's like, well, oh dear. For me, the oh dear isn't good enough. And I think Samee does great work in trying to inspire young people into looking at self-employment. Sorry, I went off, but really passionate.
No, that was good, and it's right what you say. And I think even when you're working in the schools, when you work on the workshops and you're mentoring the young people, and you see them go from no confidence to actually I could do that, and some of the ideas that they come up with are just they're absolutely amazing, and they're really genuinely good ideas. And the fact that they sit there thinking, I can create something, and it doesn't matter what my other skills are. Actually, I've come up with this really good idea. You're right, it's fantastic to see, and being able to help those children that are kind of stuck with, well, I'm not academic, I don't want to go to university, what are my other options, is a great thing to be able to do. So anyone, if you've got any questions, if we're not getting the right questions for you and you're watching, you've got anything else that comes up, no question is too big or too small, and if we don't know the answer, we'll get them, but certainly if you've got any questions for Derek, put those on today, and also let us know that you're getting value, let us know what you're taking away from today, and share your thoughts as well. So I think talking a little bit about life, because we covered life, and like you said, when you left school, there was you didn't leave with much, but actually you've built some great skills and some and a really good life for yourself. So how have the skills you've gained within your working life helped you in being a mentor?
I think I start with the obvious and the cliche, but mistakes. It is very, very true that you learn substantially more from the mistakes that you make than the achievements, in my opinion. And for me, that's really important because, you can share, and I often do share with the mentees, some of the things that I've got wrong and the consequence of that. And actually the thought process that got me to the mistake, because then maybe they will then think, okay, I'll look at things differently. I had the privilege of working with and managing some really true sales professionals. And what I did over the years was to try and understand and look at the competencies, skills, attributes that they had in common. And from that, I managed to be able to, when I'm dealing with the mentees, just share some of that experience. And I think also having a very diverse experience in terms of working for various size organisations in various market segments. Gives me quite a rounded view of business.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think mistakes. I know that there are some people out there that are particularly are watching now that do struggle with their confidence and do struggle with their, keeping themselves on track. And mistakes tend to knock you. And there are lots of different ways you can deal with that. But what would you say would be kind of your top tip, really, when you make a mistake and it knocks your confidence? What would you say is your top tip to kind of get back on track? Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and get back on track, kind of thing.
I think the building blocks of that would be and I think I can almost say every successful business person makes mistakes. My old MD at Canon, we became very friendly, and he said to me one day, "What makes you successful is that you makes 10 decisions and you get 6 right, because you're over the halfway." And I think that's really, really, really important to remember, that no matter how successful people appear to be, they will make mistakes. So that's the building block for me, that you're not in isolation. Everybody make mistakes. The third thing I did was to say, okay, let's just think about it. Why did I get to where I got to that was clearly wrong in hindsight? And then from that, take the learning, and then throw it away. It's done.
Yeah.
I can't do about it. I'm one of the things that I'm passionate about is mindset, in creating the right mindset. And again, going back to my observations of true sales champions, one of the key attributes they have is a positive mindset. And they learn that, and they educate their mind to have that positivity. And so for me, yesterday's gone. I can't do anything about yesterday, but I can do something about tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've heard a couple of people have talked about in the big successful business world about, you don't actually lose, you either win or you learn. And I think it's a really good thing to sort of take on board.
Absolutely.
Lorraine has actually asked, what was the first job you had after leaving school? And did you have a light bulb moment when you realised you were good at sales?
That's a great question. So bearing in mind, going back to the lack of hair and the wrinkles, this was some years ago, where the employment situation in the UK was very different. So I got an apprenticeship somehow, I'm not quite sure how, with British Telecom. There was a fundamental flaw in that, and the fundamental flaw is that when I was made, whoever made me forgot to connect these to that. So, I can't even bang an hour in the wall without doing some serious damage. But I did the apprenticeship. But in the back of my mind, I always wanted to be in sales. I don't know why. There was just a passion there. The challenge I had was, in those days, for some bizarre reason, every single company and advert you saw, you had to be over 25. No logic to that, but that's what it was. At the time, I was 21. And so eventually, after being very frustrated, I lied. And I got an interview. And I never looked my age, older, because I'm actually 30. You wouldn't think it, would you? And at the end of the interview, I said to the guy, "Now I'm going to be honest with you, I'm 21." And give the guy his due, he actually said, "Thank you, you've got the job."
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was my beginnings.
Brilliant. So I think, would you say, and I think I already know what the answer is going to be to this, really, but would you say having a mentor when starting out is essential to success, and what difference do you think it makes?
I wouldn't say it was essential. I think it's advantageous. I think it's several things, really, and it depends on where you where you are in your own personal development in terms of where the mentor can help. So maybe at the start of a business, the mentor can actually share direct experience, maybe particularly in sales, coach in terms of different approaches to selling. But I think equally, if you've got an established business, it's very often difficult if you've got particular challenges to actually have those conversations with people within inside the business. And that for me is where a mentor really comes in, where you can sit down with somebody that you've built a level of trust with, but it's completely objective because they're not involved with the business. There is that old analogy, isn't there, that says you can't see the wood for the trees, but actually by just talking it through, all of a sudden you get clarity. So for me, it's about that objectivity, being able to sit down with someone. Normally, it's something in the work I do with the Dorset group. I sit down with the mentees every month. We always are away from the business, wherever that is. And it's just an opportunity for them just to take an objective view, sort of outside in. You help them to look into their business rather than being in their business. And I think that's really important. So
yeah, definitely. So I think we've already covered around mentors really, but what would be your top 3 tips would you give to anyone starting a business based on your own experience?
I think I've covered some of this, but it's about believing in yourself. You really have to believe in yourself. And it comes back to the positivity of mindset. And I would encourage anybody, there's some great books around mindset. I would really encourage people just to read, if they haven't, just how to educate your brain into positive thinking, because that's so important. In my opinion, you have to have a very, very clear focus on what it is you want your business to be, and a very clear direction of how you're going to get there. And the third element is set goals, set objectives, short and medium term, and more importantly, review them formally on a regular basis. It's surprising to me how many businesses don't actually set really short and medium term goals. And yet, when you do that, it gives you an opportunity, when you formally review them, to say, yeah, we're on track, or actually, we're not on track. Why are we going down? How many times have people said, I'm really, really busy, but I'm not being successful? Yeah. That's because they're not setting objectives and then reviewing them. If they set the objectives, they then review and go, this is not working. We need to move this way, and we need to move that way. Yeah. So, I can remember years ago when I was working with a training company, and they wanted me to do some training, and we were really, really genuinely busy. There was lots and lots of stuff going on, but they wanted me to do this time management training. And I can remember them coming into the office and saying, you need to do some time management training, and me going, I don't have time for time management training. It's the age-old thing. But actually, it does free up your time. It does help you to work smarter. And the mindset, I think when you're in a job, you certainly find, and you probably agree, Derek, when you work for big corporate companies, they set a training program out. They say, you must do this. You need to learn this. This is the course you need to go on. This is going to help you with this. But when you step into the business world, no one says to you, what training are you thinking about? You just focus on what you need to do to get the business going. So that mindset stuff definitely it helps me. One of the going back to, and I've mentioned it several times, so I'm probably not boring people, but the common traits with the sales champions, one of the common traits is that they continually educate and learn. They read books, they go on training, and these are people that are very successful. but they recognise to remain successful, they need to keep educating themselves.
Yeah, definitely. So, who have been talking about mentors and people who train and influence? Who have been your biggest influencers and mentors throughout your career?
I suppose there've been sort of several, but there are two that come to mind really. I worked for a privately owned logistics company, and the CEO of the organisation, his background was with one of the big four global consultancies, and yet what he taught me was business is very simple, and that people overcomplicate it.
Yeah.
We bought a business, and I remember vividly, I can still remember it now as though it was yesterday. We struck the deal, he and I struck the deal on the day, and John actually hand wrote the contract on an A4 sheet of paper. And it really resonated with me that, and I took that through both my own business, but also into corporate life. I was known as a maverick in the corporate environment. But part of that was that I wouldn't get involved with, the what I call the business crap. Excuse my language, but it's true. I was very much focused on doing. Let's do. And then the second person was back in my first sales job. I'm not convinced if I would have been fired or I would have been left, or I would have left. But it would have been weeks for that decision. And a new sales director came in, and Alistair saw something in me. I don't know what. We became very good friends years afterwards. But he really taught me how to create sales. And he actually saved my career, if I'm honest, because I would have definitely, as I said, I would have been fired or I would have left, one or the other.
Yeah.
Because I was doing, as I said earlier on, I was very, very busy, but busy doing the wrong things.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's right. We do seem to, if we look at something that's really simple, we tend to, our mind looks at it and goes, well, it can't be that simple. We need to, what about this? And we start thinking about all the things we need to add in. Lorraine is saying, thank goodness for Mavericks. They keep life interesting. So,
I couldn't agree more.
Definitely. And if anyone's got any questions, like we said, add them to the comments, email them in. But yeah, I think just knowing what you know now from your journey, if you were to travel back to the younger you starting in your career, what would you say and what would be your best advice?
I've said it before, I'll say again, believe in yourself. There's a lot of talk recently about the imposter syndrome. And it's incredible how many very successful businessmen actually suffer from that. And I think in the early part of my career, I definitely did. I got promoted, and I remember thinking, why are they promoting me? Because I didn't actually have that belief. Fortunately, it came. But I think if I'd gone back to the start of my career, it would have been believe in yourself because others do. That would be the advice. Yeah.
And the team are saying, don't bet on the Greyhounds.
Yeah. For those that don't know, Samee kindly take out the folk for a Christmas do, which is normally at the Pool Greyhound. And the first year I went, and this is almost impossible to do, I didn't win one race. And it is almost impossible. In fact, the odds for that must be extremely high. But she hadn't let me forget it.
I think there was I think that evening I think we were all having a bit of trouble with the with picking the right ones, and I think there were some that were picking ones and thinking they were doing really well, not realizing they were coming in towards the back, and it was
Yeah,
definitely an interesting evening anyway, wasn't it?
it was.
So yeah, so I think, I mean, that moves us nicely on to um, our final thoughts about it, and our final thoughts about business, about mentoring, about anything that you want to add to the conversation, really, Derek. So over to you in regards to final thoughts.
Okay. So when Rick sort of spoke to me about doing this and sort of how do we finish really, I kind of felt, okay, well, why don't I just share with you, because I've spoken about it a lot, just one particular element of the traits of successful sales champions. If I can just put some context to this. So as I was approaching retirement, and as I said, thinking about what I was going to do, I started to go to local networking events just to listen and observe and talk to small business owners and understand what their challenges were. And it really amazed me that there were so many that I met that said words to the effect of, I don't like selling, I'm frightened of selling. I remember driving home one evening thinking, but how can that be? Because without sales, that's the lifeblood of any business. And that motivated me to put together a short presentation. You'll be pleased to know I'm not going to bore you all with that, but I've got one slide. So, Rick, would you mind bringing that up for me?
Indeed, indeed. There we are.
So many of you may well have seen this before, but I'd like you just to look at those numbers and then think about that in the context of a sales environment. What that's saying to you is over 90% of your communication process from one human being to another is non-verbal. Everything start to resonate. Ricky, if you could just hit the second slide, please.
Yeah.
Is if we accept that principle and if you research it, you'll find, okay, there might be some varying numbers, but I think from my experience, the number is always 90%. We then take that into the sales environment that says, okay, if I know that, how can I influence to get a more positive relationship? And so there are four tips there, and there are many more. And I would encourage people who are interested in this to do some further research, because I make a comment which is very genuine, which is if you master how to influence non-verbal communication, it will increase your sales. But if I look at smile, so when you meet somebody, if you smile, the first thing is it's a very positive reaction, and generally people will smile back. There's the famous one, which is the open body pose. So open hands, and it creates a positive brain image. Don't forget that this is all going on in your brain. An example would be, there's a TV program called First Dates. Some of you may watch it. It's set in a restaurant, and it's blind dates. And it is amazing when the two people meet for the first time, they say each other's name, and then maybe 2 minutes later, one of them will go, sorry, your name is... And the reason for that is that when you first meet somebody, what your brain is doing is not listening at all. It is actually going through a huge process of analysing you in terms of your language. And again, that's really important when you put that in a sales context. Next one is a mirror pose. So where we're doing here is that whatever the potential customer sort of body language is, you mirror that. But of course, what you can then do is you can then start to actually manipulate that into a more positive body language if that's required. And then coming back to what I touched on earlier on, and unquestionably, this is the most difficult, but I would encourage everybody to try, if they need to really learn and try this, which is active listening. And I'm going to read because it's some time since I've delivered this. So possibly the most important and most difficult skill to learn. This needs practice, but is vitally important in forming trusting relationships. Active listening means educating your brain not to start forming responses while the other person is still speaking. I think we're all guilty of that. I certainly am guilty of that. I have to educate myself in this particular aspect an awful lot. Focus on what's being said. Active listening should engage your whole body. Try nodding, portraying the understanding, lean in slightly, and with an open body pose. And then when the person's finished speaking, just to give a brief feedback on your understanding. Really, really important. I reiterate, I guarantee if you need to, and if you're not using these, if you do use them, your sales will increase. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. And we've had a few comments from Michael, actually, based on what we've been listening to. So he said that been listening to my own life, so similar from what you've talked about to him. But he did say it's as an engineer, not as sales. And then he followed that up with, now I know why I never remember names, too focused on other things.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that has been a brilliant session. I think that's kind of brought us to the end. I think if anyone's got any other comments they want to add, if you've got value from this, if you've enjoyed it, then pop a comment in. Let us know. Let us know what your biggest takeaway has been today from what we've talked about. And if you've got any further questions or comments, or you're watching this on a replay, you can either contact myself, which is ricky@samee.co.uk. You can email Derek there. So we've got dghawley@outlook.com. And you can also send it through to the sam@samee.co.uk. So yeah, we've got some comments that are coming in. So we'll just see. Yeah, Lorraine has said that she really enjoyed that. Thank you. So yeah, we've had a couple of emails that have come in that said it was really great. Interesting, great session, Michael said as well. So yeah, so there's been a few comments on that, and I'm sure there'll be some more later on. But Derek, thank you ever so much. Thank you for your time, because that is the most valuable commodity. So thank you for giving your time to us as always. And it's been a really, really good session.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We will see you next week. And Anne has just said, very informative, definitely guilty of some of the not to do. So I think Annie will be working on those, definitely. So yeah, so that's a goodbye from me and a goodbye from Derek, I'm sure.
Bye-bye.
And thank you ever so much. Next week, we have the very lovely Mark Nixon joining us on Samee With Sessions. I'm going to be talking about legal bits and pieces. Great support to the charity and a great person to come and listen to. You definitely won't want to miss that one. So come and join us and share your questions. But for now, we're going to say goodbye, and we'll see you next week.